Hello, this is 360 Nigeria. From the last edition of this program till today, so many developments have been taking place in the Nigerian polity, and so have there been changes on 360 Nigeria. Your regular host, Josephine Beatrice, is on a long vacation. I am Belinda Nwobodo, and I will be your host on 360 Nigeria going forward. In today's edition, mass murder remains abroad in Nigeria, and those killing us are given conditions for leaving our limbs on our bodies. As our leaders beg and negotiate with our killers, the people of Benue State are asking what their sins are. It is going to 4 months since Nigeria celebrated June 12th, the nation's new democracy day. Since then, the Nigerian government has conferred honors on some Nigerians of high achievement. On September 29, the nation will get 57 new senior advocates of Nigeria, increasing the number of such lawyers of honor in law practice. So life rolls on. But on June 12th, there were names never mentioned in the nation's list of honor. They have not been mentioned even after. Names of some Nigerians who put their lives on the line to even allow those being honored today to live in peace. Who are these forgotten Nigerians? We will tell you. Vice President Kashim Shettima should watch it. Some Arabian camels may be by his side, and if he does not secure his tent, he may be out in the cold. Why could Shettima lose out in the jostling for vice president ticket of APC? Plus, the escort, the side chicks, and the concubines. It is an irresistible package. Just stay with us. Before we bring you details of our stories for today, let's update you on recent developments in the polity. The coordinator of Obedient Movement, Dr. Tanko Yunusa, says presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023 election, Peter Obi, is not undecided on the political party on which he will contest the 2027 election. Dr. Yunusa told Signature TV exclusively that Peter Obi will announce the party on whose platform he will contest the presidential election after the Anambra State governorship election in November.
He said that he is going to be in a coalition with individuals who are going to help in rescuing Nigeria, and then he will make this position known after the elections that takes place of the Labour Party candidate, Mr. George Moghalu, in November. So you can understand now that he's not a selfish leader. He wants to carry his people along. So at the point in time when he makes his pronouncement, we will now know which of the political party is going to run under.
That's the trending update, and you can get such authoritative story only on 360 Nigeria. We'll take a break and return very shortly. Please stay with us.
The details, the perspectives, and greater insight. That's what 360 Nigeria brings to issues and developments across Nigeria. 360 Nigeria, more insight, more perspective, every Wednesday on Signature TV.
On Saturday, June 14, 2025, 2 days after Nigeria celebrated Democracy Day, Yelewata, an agrarian community in Benue State, was attacked in a manner that horrified Nigerians. That incident forced President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to visit Benue State, a visit that was to tell Benue residents that the federal government was with them in times like that. If all is well that ends well, then that visit was not well, because the killings, whether in Benue or elsewhere in Nigeria, persist even as we speak. In this report, our correspondent revisits the Benue killings, the presidential visit, and matters arising.
It has been over 3 months since over 100 innocent Nigerians were killed in a coordinated attack on communities in Benue State. The epicenter of that mass murder was Yelwata, a peaceful community located in the sprawling agrarian lands of Benue State. Since that incident, mass murder has remained abroad in Benue State. Communities are being cleaned out, either chased away by marauding armed men who are preceded by people looking like innocent neighbors, or community members who stop by to say hello while in their farms are cut down in a hail of bullets. Crackling AK-47 rifles tell the innocent communities that these people passing by or flashing torchlights in the night are no friends. Whole community occupants are butchered in a demented manner. Father, mother, children, entire homesteads are burnt, and anybody trying to escape is cut down. As we said 3 months ago, happy, homely, and settled communities in Benue State have lived on their indigenous lands for as long as memory cannot even remember, could not understand what was happening to them. What was their sin?
All they want to do is to produce food, fend for themselves and for their families, and feed the nation. And to think that they will just be in their sleep, they've not gone out to attack anybody, they are just sleeping after a hard day's work, looking forward to the next day's work. And then somebody, crashes through their door and pours petrol into the room and sets it on fire, incinerating everything that is in that room. Men, women, children, their youth, everything. In the 21st century, this thing is happening.
It's a cause of grave concern, especially because the people just desire to live in peace, to sleep and wake up, to raise their families, to the extent of their limited financial resources, and just be themselves, But when the operating environment where all this is supposed to take place is not being created by the government, whose sole and primary responsibility is actually to guarantee the safety of lives first, the safety of property second, then it raises the larger issue of whether there's any form of governance going on in the country.
Those who managed to survive the assault from hell by mere chance have become internally displaced persons right in their own state. Not even the Roman Catholic pontiff, the Pope, could hold his shock. But what could he do but to pray for the innocent survivors and the souls forced with guns and machete to lose their hold on life? Reports after the Yelwata horror incident have revealed that Nigeria's intelligence agency, the DSS, had warned of the attack as those who staged it organized, armed their actual killers, and identified their targets right from a location in Nasarawa State. According to the report, the grounds of the killers was the implementation of the anti-open grazing law in Benue State. By that law, cattle involved in open grazing are arrested and confiscated. This was by the authority of the Benue State government and not any individual community. So, how could any one community take responsibility for a law legitimately enacted by the Benue State legislature and signed into law by the state governor?
In Nigeria, it appears the intelligence is failing. That is why the security incidents are actually happening. And now the response seems to also to be short. So if you look at Yelwata now, intelligence failed. That is why these guys got to the community. But when they got to the community, what was the response? The response also failed. That is why they were not stopped in their tracks. And they actually took a number of hours to go door to door, finish what they were doing, and they were allowed to go away.
There is a government in place that will hold those who were supposed to take action and didn't take action accountable for their not taking action when they should have, to protect the people. But, we are in a country where, virtually nothing happens to anybody who doesn't perform.
While the people of Benue State were asking questions on what the sins of their communities and their innocent folks were, it appeared that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu knew a thing or two. In a statement the president issued at the heat of that mass murder, he chided the Benue State governor, Hyacinth Alia, for not being a statesman. He was spurning reconciliation, and that gave rise to reprisal attacks in the state. So, the governor was the architect of the mass murder in Benue State. The people of Benue State, according to the president's logic, had fired an earlier shot, and that shot drew the hail of reprisal bullets on them. Governor Alia should therefore reconcile the warring parties.
Official response, like it is reprisal attacks, it is warring parties, it's communal issues, it's political issues, and the response is that go and reconcile. So it is terrible that it's not only happening, but the response is not encouraging.
The problem with Tinubu's reprisal narrative is that it is short on history. The struggle over Benue land and the right to control how the land is deployed was an issue under the Southerner government in northern Nigeria. During the quelling of the Tiv riots in 1963 by the Tafawa Balewa government using the military, the issue of using the army to force the hands of the people of Benue was raised by politicians of then Middle Belt. Today, the people of Agatu, Yelwata, and 10 local government areas in Benue State are saying that their lives are being wasted, communities despoiled, and blood shed in a murderous move to take over their ancestral lands for open grazing.
They don't have the mandate to engage these people. That it is only the federal government that can give them the mandate to engage these people. So my people should be killed. My people should die all before government will talk about this. What is the meaning of this? Yesterday I buried 5 people, a father and 2 of his sons of over 40, 50 years in Teobian, very close to a military base. What is the meaning of this? If they cannot help me, maybe I'll leave this position as chairman and let it continue the way it is. I don't care about being a chairman of the local government of the people that are all killed. What is the meaning of this? Look at a child of 2 years old, butchered with cutlass. How many people? We're talking of no less than 20 people that were killed in Aondana village. This is the village of the former first lady of this state, Mrs. Eunice Otom. This is the village of the Togwe. This is the village of the Bishop Banagbe. This is fucking too much for me to condone. And I tell you, whatever will happen, will happen.
Please, has the president heard this? So, the president wants the people of Benue State to surrender their lands to herdsmen or get killed. That cannot be reconciliation. To do so does not make Governor Alia a statesman. The president visited Benue State, if you remember, probably to have a first-hand experience of what was going on in the state. He went there with the full teeth of Nigeria's defense capability. The security chiefs went with him and some ahead of him, with each of them speaking of readiness to crush threats to peace and stability. But did Tinubu go to Benue State to bring succor to famished people, to soothe their pain, to give them back their threatened humanity and assure them of their safety? Or was he there to kickstart a political campaign towards 2027? Some may say this question is belated. But please, the mobilization of the people to line the routes and cheer the president, the declaration of a public holiday and closure of schools, and the failure of the president to visit Yelwata, according to him, because of heavy rain and bad roads, the very epicenter of the gory murders, was a classic in dancing on the grave of the innocent. Let a Benue visit of this type not repeat in any of the many corridors of mass murder expanding in Nigeria today. Plateau State, Kaduna State, Katsina State, Borno State, Imo State, Anambra State, Niger State. If the Benue visit repeats itself, Nigerians may be forced to conclude that political advantage matters more to Tinubu than the lives of the citizens. And Mwabuz in Choco for 360 Nigeria.
Thank you. Our Yoruba brothers, we always pray that we never experience evil. Well, we just hope that the Nigerian story of mass murders ends very soon. The Christian Holy Book, the Bible, says since the time of John the Baptist, the kingdom of God suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. That violence had a reward, the kingdom of God which every man of faith desires. It appears, however, that patriotic violence in Nigeria is a risk that has no reward, not even the reward of thank you. Correspondent Chimezie Nzedimma tells us the story of 4 young Nigerians whose patriotic zeal made them to be righteously violent. But when the roll of honor was called, their names were missing.
This story was to have been told on June 13, 2025, a day after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu released the names of Nigerians honored for their patriotic contributions in Nigeria. There were mistakes in that roll of honor, so we waited till now in the belief that the names of 4 people, which a number of Nigerians expected to be on the list, were omitted in error. Now we are sure that in estimation of President Tinubu, those names are leprous, not worthy of honor.
In honoring these people, a wrong message could be passed to this generation that may not have sufficient teeth to masticate the temerity, import, and time of the happening of that particular event. So I think the government exercised very deep discretion following all parameters of its judgment.
Let's tell you the story. On October 25, 1993, a Nigerian Airways Airbus A310-221 took off from Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos heading to Abuja. It had on board 149 passengers and crew, among them 4 young men aged between 16 and 18 years. The young men's names were Richard Ogunderu, Kabir Adenuga, Bennett Oluwadasi, and Kenny Razak. Unknown to the passengers and the crew, the 4 young men were members of a political pressure group called Movement for the Advancement of Democracy, MAD. Members of the group had become frustrated with the serial failure of the military to return Nigeria to democracy and intent on annulling the June 12, 1993 elections. They had taken matters into their own hands. Mid-air, the 4 young men hijacked the plane and ordered the captain to fly the aircraft and its passengers to Germany. It was plain suicide because the plane was not made for such long distance and did not have fuel to undertake such long flights. The 4 hijackers took the plane and its passengers to Niamey, Niger Republic. With the collaboration of the French authorities who were in firm control of Niger Republic and the Nigerian security operatives who reported to the same military that held Nigerian democracy hostage. Security operatives stormed the plane on the tarmac. One passenger was killed. But the passengers were released. The military junta in Nigeria wanted the four young men returned to Nigeria, where they were sure to face death. But France pressured the Nigerian authorities to trial the four young men in Niamey. They were sentenced to 10 years in prison for wanting to enter the kingdom of democracy by force. Why did Richard Ogunderu, Kabir Adenuga, Bennett Oluwadasi, and Kenny Razak put their lives in the line? It was to reform Nigeria to a democratic order where there can be free choice, free speech, accountability, and respect for citizens' rights. If this is not patriotism, what is?
When you fight for the people and you put the people's lives at risk, it becomes a very thin, dicey, knife-edge line, which we need to reconsider. In that situation, that act could be seen as terrorism because the people's lives were at risk and anything could have happened at that material time. Lives would have been lost, people would have been dead, and all of that. So there needs to be that line between fighting for freedom and that line between doing things within the precincts of sanity. Well, I think the government used all the parameters of fair judgment in arriving at its decision. When you bring such individuals maybe to national honors for that, it stirs a kind of spirit again. Of course, these young men did these things out of patriotism. They deserve to be encouraged for even risking their lives. They deserve to be supported. They deserve to be remembered. Howbeit, the pattern of recognizing them matters a lot. Because in recognizing them in a particular manner, it could reinforce rebellion against the government. And rebellion against the government is not what we need for the forward voyage of our nation. We are not saying that the government should not be held accountable, but we are saying that rebellion against the government should not be encouraged. This is a democratic government and not a military government. If you juxtapose the actions of these young men against the current trend, you will discover again that when you honor these great heroes, let me call them that because they took on heroic acts of courage. When you honor them, the young men of this generation, the teenagers of this generation, who have not taken time to look through the fine lines of history, will feel like, oh, all we need to do is to rant on Twitter and all the other social media platforms and then mobilize people just for gain of popularity.
To the hijackers of the Nigeria Airways who were purportedly protesting because of the annulment of June 12th election, I see it and I will always see it as criminality from criminal point of view. You hijack an aeroplane where innocent Nigerians were on board and you purport to be doing it for the sake of democracy. That is extremism. You have gone to the extreme. Going to the extreme to now be a terrorist, to now be a hijacker, to hijack plane, to aeroplane, to threaten innocent lives. That we are not the citizens that were on board the aeroplane, we are not the people responsible for the annulment of June 12th presidential election, and you now purport to be acting for the restoration of democracy to threaten the life of your fellow innocent citizens. I see it as a pure criminality.
Of course, every struggle, every revolution had its collateral damage. The hijack was likely to have created collateral damage, but there is cost in every revolution.
You know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself was, also a member of the June 12th struggle, so he was part and parcel of it. So we pay tribute to all those that laid their life, for the sake of democracy, particularly MKO Abiola, of blessed memory now, that has been adequately recognized as the winner of that election and has been given national honor. So I am an activist and an advocate of rule of law. I believe in doing things within the ambit of law. I believe in exercising your rights. Either your right to protest, your right to freedom of speech, your right to advocate for the restoration of democracy. I believe that whatever right you exercise must be exercised within the ambits of the law. So whatever may be that you are doing, either you are purporting to defend democracy or you are purporting to advocate for restoration of democracy, you must exercise that right within the ambits of the law.
So, in the light of current developments, we would like to call on Nigerian youth, particularly at this time when political parties are also coming up with various agenda and diverse sobriquets and diverse promises. We'd like to call on Nigerian youth to be circumspect. Let's be wary of what we do. Let's be very cautious of the steps we take. Let's operate only within the precincts of the laws of the Federation of Nigeria. Anything outside this will not be tolerated. Anything outside this will be prosecuted. No matter how zealous we are for good governance, we should operate within the precincts of the law. We are in a democratic era. We are no longer in the military era where, of course, we had to rebel significantly and very seriously so. So a lot has evolved and a lot has changed. We will call on the youth of Nigeria, particularly from the standpoint of the National Youth Council of Nigeria. Where things are not going right, there are mechanisms to put government in check. Again, this particular government focuses on a consultative approach, a partnership approach, an approach that sees young people as part of governance. So it is easy to pull down. But when you call people to say, okay, let us reason constructively, what can we do to make Nigeria better? You discover that the room begins to deplete in numbers. So rather than exploring vistas of pulling down the country, rather than exploring vistas of chaos, riots, and anarchy, we want to call on the youth of Nigeria. Let us explore vistas of productive thinking, engaging with government constructively, partnering with government on all fronts.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's presidential credentials include the June 12 Nadeko activism. Nadeko was accused of incendiary politicking, even actual violence, yet Tinubu today is a hero, a patriot and president. If he associated with righteous violence and now he is a hero, why will 4 young men who put their lives on the line for democracy not even be mentioned on June 12, 2025, when their nation celebrated the heroes of their struggle?
History cannot be rewritten. History cannot be obliterated. History cannot be consigned to oblivion. These young men acted with courage. They acted with confidence. They acted out of patriotism. They acted out of balance. They acted against a military regime. They acted like all the heroes past and even the heroes present that have been recognized. Many were thrown into jail and so on and so forth. But of course, what we call the youthful exuberance also took hold of them. They acted out of a patriotism that had eaten deep into their bloodstream that could not even be controlled. A patriotism that put even lives of innocent citizens at risk, which should not be encouraged. But it must not be erased that their motive was pure patriotism.
I am Chimize Zedima for 360 Nigeria.
Some people who want to be politically correct will describe the method of those 4 young men as criminal and therefore not to be encouraged. That is textbook logic. That argument should also distance itself from the benefit of the method adopted by the 4. It is like condemning GMO farm farm produce, but encouraging the establishment of companies that depend on GMO produce. Contradictions, right? Anyway, Vice President Shettima Kashim is away in New York at the United Nations General Assembly. Some cynics say he should enjoy as much of the limelight as possible because he may not get another opportunity after the 2027 election. But why? Correspondent Thompsonime Natus examines why Kashim Shettima may not return on the APC ticket as the presidential running mate to Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
It was on Sunday, 15th June 2025 that the cover was blown open. It was at the Northeast APC stakeholders meeting in Gombe, the Gombe state capital. All the ugly political content in the Northeast zone of the ruling All Progressives Congress was spewed in the open. It took the intervention of security personnel to prevent a fisticuff between Gentleman Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, and his Gombe State counterpart, Inuwa Yahaya. What was at issue was a motion moved by Yahaya for the zone to endorse Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the unopposed presidential candidate of the APC in the 2027 election. No mention was made of Kashim Shettima, the vice president, as running mate. The then national chairman of the party, Abdullahi Ganduje, did not offer Shettima any protection. Babagana Zulum raised a moral flag. Shettima had offered Tinubu so much favor and stood by him in hiring false bishops to endorse his candidature. What reward was he getting? Left in the cold, his political future uncertain.
The issue of Shettima right now, I think, is a distraction. It has already consumed somebody. I understand that was why reason Ganduje lost his post. Maybe I stand to be corrected. So, but then, looking at it critically, I think VP Shettima has been very loyal. I've not seen him abuse or insult or say anything against the president, despite all the attempts being made to discredit him. Some of us have been observing a lot of things that we have never noticed in previous administrations. Since this administration came in, we have never seen Shettima preside over Federal Executive Council, even when the president is not there. That has not been the norm. When the president is not there, the vice president presides. But we have seen cases where when the president is not there, it's either Shettima is out of the country or the Federal Executive Council will not hold. And even when the president is in the country, most times he is sent out of the country on days that FEC is supposed to sit. If we are actually to measure, like in the National Assembly, where you are expected to sit minimum of 180 days, I don't think the VP, we can say in all honesty that he has sat more than 20% of the FEC meetings that are held. And that calls for question. I mean, is he being a rubber stamp, or is he a spare tire, like people say that VPs are spare tires?
In my opinion, it's largely a party affair. It's not something that is for the country. Definitely, whatever decision you take impugns on governance. They are supposed to be concentrating on governance and not politics, as it were. And hence, whether Shettima is coming back for a second term or not is only time that will tell. That remains to be seen. But in my opinion, it's largely a party thing. You see, democracy is not all about government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Democracy is also about conflict resolution. A lot of things happen within the party. Do you have internal democracy within the party? Where same is not the case, why is that the case? These are issues that you look at. On the other hand, issues that bother on loyalty is something that every leader wants.
But why is Shettima losing out? The major reason is cold political calculations. Tinubu has become intensely worried that the Fulani political establishment is totally opposed to his second-term bid. Shatima is not shy of playing the Kanuri religious cousin to the Fulani political interests. So he has expressed his objection to the winner-takes-it-all approach of Tinubu in strategic political appointments. Tinubu has unabashedly played the ethnic card. Strategic security, financial, oil industry, policy, regulation positions are in the grips of the Yorubas. That simply means that the Fulani establishment is not getting what they are used to. Ordinarily, this should have worked for Shatima since the Kanuri would have provided a counterbalance.
I would rather advise APC to allow President Tinubu to have time. We still have up to next year before politicking will start. So talking about him now, I think is a distraction. Very, very uncalled for, very, very unnecessary distraction. But then going forward, I would advise Tinubu to stick to him if he wins the APC presidential primary, which I'm sure he will win. And because they say one good turn deserves another. Removing him will cause a lot of disconfusion in the north, and I'm sure a lot of people will not be happy about it.
Two other factors are, however, working against him. Tinubu knows that if he is to get a second term, the Muslim ticket could be a liability. He is therefore looking in the direction of the northern Christians to boost his numbers if he is to succeed in his bid for a second term.
For the Muslim ticket you talked about, until our leaders started dividing us along the lines of religion and ethnicity and exploiting it to their selfish political advantage. Some of us as broad-minded people have never seen the religion of a leader as a determining factor as to whether the leader is going to perform or is not going to perform. So Muslims, we've had it before. We had, did we not have Abiola and Kingibe? They were elected, both Muslims, you know. And then we have also had, I think, I don't know, in some states we've had them, and we have seen them deliver dividends of democracy. So for some of us who are broad-minded, it is not really a challenge. I think what is important is the commitment and determination of those who are elected, irrespective of their religious affiliations and cleavages. Their determination and commitment to deliver is what matters to some of us.
In addition, Kano State, which is a major northern political stronghold, is prevaricating, some moving towards PBAT and others holding on to the Kwankwansiya dynasty. That reduces Tinubu's vote loss, even if he doesn't get him a landslide. It, however, makes Shatima a featherweight. Worse than this is the Boko Haram baggage which Shatima still carries. He is yet to discharge his alleged complicity in the Chibok girls' abduction episode. The opponent's profile of him is that he has no limit to what he can do in a power game. Not even human life seems to matter in his pursuit of power ambition. That is an allegation, though not weighty on facts, but grave in political sentiment, especially knowing that some Boko Haram suspects were arrested in the Abuja liaison office of Borno State while he was governor. Kashim Shatima's eyes are fixed on the presidency after Tinubu, and Tinubu's advisors are reported to be whispering to their principal to be wary of an over-ambitious vice. That may be another issue the president is considering in choosing his running mate.
There are procedures for removal of people who have been elected or who have run on the same ticket with those elected. It's purely their internal affair. But the only advice we can give from outside is, okay, what are those things, those expectations? What were those things they expected from Shatima that probably haven't been delivered in terms of provision of services, and leadership. It is clearly their internal affair. But what we are saying, I am one man who believes in continuity. That's one thing I believe in. But continuity is also dependent on, at least within that period of assessment, have you made any attempts to try to deliver at all before we begin to talk about continuity? Now, why I say it's the internal affair is because only them can tell you the level of destabilization that may be caused by that decision. Only them can tell you what they stand to benefit as a party if the decision to drop him is executed and is eventually dropped. It's not an NNPP affair, it is an APC affair. And I'm sure that they have their machinery, local machinery within the party to determine what they would do to the man.
In the public, presidential spokespersons tell you that running mates are chosen after primaries. But is the presidential candidate not also chosen at the primaries? Why will a presidential candidate get endorsement and his running mate remains a matter of conjecture or even contention?
You see, let's not forget that politicians are human beings. The pain you feel, they feel it also at different levels. And sincerely, in my opinion, I hope the assertion, whatever the issues are, will be handled. But for its worth, I don't think it's something that Nigerians should truly be bothered about, because it's largely an internal party decision.
It is their internal affair. They are the ones looking at the reasons why they should drop him or the reasons why they should not drop him. But I can see that part of what they are saying at the surface level is that he did not deliver the Northeast. The Northeast that was, what do I call it, in turmoil during the election. Where were they expecting the votes to come from? You know. So that is the truth about it. It is their internal matter. Let us allow them determine it in such a way that it would either be destructive to them or be beneficial to them. But what is important is the interest of Nigeria. We need peace and we need stability in this country.
Why is Tinubu getting all the endorsement while a running mate is left out? The outlook for Shettima is not promising, and it appears that some candidates may get a Tinubu look in before him, which could signal winter and rough weather for the former banker. Reporting in Abuja, I am Tomsinime Natus.
The calculations, they say, never end until the last second. The horse trading is the hallmark of partisan politics. Tinubu is the man to decide who the cap fits, and the rest will be history, as they say it. The report is all over the social media, shared so many times. It carries the United Nations logo that seems to confer credibility on the report that the world's population now stands at 7.8 billion. The breakdown of that number, which still raises an authenticity doubt, is what correspondent Christopher Lele takes up in this report.
From the UN First Quarter 2025 report, the Earth's 7.8 billion population should not be a challenge. Even with the deserts and the oceans, the Earth still has enough space for twice that number. Ironically, with the Earth's abundant space, people are dying of hunger, famine, diseases, and worse still, wars. Some say these challenges that claim lives are nature's way of keeping the human population within what the Earth can, in real terms, handle. If this is true, what is the population ratio of women to men meant to achieve? The UN report being shared in the social media says of the 7.8 billion population, 5.6 billion are women and 2.2 billion men. This means that the number of women exceeds that of men by 3.4 billion. Some population experts say it is nature's way of ensuring that the human species regenerates on an unending basis. Women reproduce humans. Wars have been fought, civilizations disrupted or even destroyed, great men have been brought down, and societies of high spiritual standing brought low on account of struggles for women. So nature in 2025 is keeping the peace among men by providing more women to avert struggles and conflict. If there are more than enough women, why are men still going into fights? For there are still struggles and fights over them. When you can have to your heart's content, why the bile and venom?
Men are naturally monogamous in nature, so it's not something bad. That's the reality now. So we cannot avoid what we are. That's our nature. That's the reality. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As far as men will maintain their position as monogamous in nature, so we cannot fight it. That's the reality. And women are naturally our weakness. You know, a man can do whatever you want him to do, but when you involve woman in it, that's the weakness of the man. That's the reality.
I don't know. I think it's just like God's design, because He's always said, "Oh, there will be more women than men in this world." So I just feel like it's God's design. And you know, the chromosomes of men, it's not patterning on the women's body. I think it's the men. So if God say you're going to give birth to women, you are. But if God say you're going to give birth to men, you are. So I feel like He loves us more.
Even the white men, they are saying that Africa, they are much. They want to reduce the population. Are they the one that created us?
Well, some people, they like women more than men. Okay? They like women more than men. Now make the population of the women pass man nowadays.
There is a snag here. The one-man, one-wife Christian procreative organization, which is called marriage, is a hurdle that seems to be working against nature and stuck the fight. Nature, according to the United Nations, has provided more than twice the number of women than men, yet the Christian religion says one man, one wife. There is even more bad news. The actual number of men available to marry these women is just 1 billion. Out of the 2.2 billion men, 1 billion are already married, 130 million in prisons, and 70 million mentally unstable. Yet, out of the remaining 1 billion, 50% are jobless, 3% are gay, 5% are celibate priests, 33% are over 66 years, and 10% are relatives. Is the Quran not more responsive to this situation of too many women for too few men?
Allah says in Surah An-Nisa, Quran 4 verse 3, "And if you fear that you will not deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry those that please you of other women, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear that you will not be just, then marry only one, or those your right hand possesses, for example slaves, that is more suitable, that you may not incline to injustice."
Just like the Quran provides, the African society and even the West, before popes were made not to marry, had an answer to the man-woman population ratio. The Efulefu should take to himself one wife because he's not man enough to keep and maintain any more than one. But the strong man, with a barn large enough to provide for Umunna, should take as many wives as his strength and wealth can take care of. This position also has its justification in the Christian Bible in 1 Chronicles chapter 3.
Now these were the sons of David, which were born unto him in Hebron: the firstborn Amnon of Ahinoam the Jezreelite, the second Daniel of Abigail the Carmelite, the third Absalom the son of Maacah the daughter of Talmai king of Geshur, the fourth Adonijah the son of Haggit, the fifth Shephatiah of Abital, the sixth Ithream by Eglah his wife. These 6 were born unto him in Hebron, and there he reigned 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years. And these were born unto him in Jerusalem: Shemer, and Shobab, and Nathan, and Solomon, 4, of Bathshua the daughter of Amiel, Eber also, and Elishama, and Eliphalet, and Noga, and Nepheg, and Japhiah, and Elishama, and Eliada, and Eliphalet, 9. These were all the sons of David, besides the sons of the concubine and Tamar their sister.
So David, whom the Bible records as being God's friend, had at least 8 wives and many concubines. His son Solomon, whom God pronounced as having purity of heart and hands fit to build the temple in Jerusalem, had triple that number across continents. How come these divinely endorsed procreative unions now face hurdles which create the escorts, the side chicks, and the concubines?
Well, let's hope those figures are what they are. Social media cook up. Let me go to the United Nations website to confirm more statistics, just in case there are now more men than women. I am Belinda Nwobodo. Until next week, when I return, have a week ahead and good afternoon.
360 Nigeria, tracking issues in the polity. The details, the perspectives, and greater insight. That's what 360 Nigeria brings to issues and developments across Nigeria. 360 Nigeria, more insight, more perspective, every Wednesday on Signature TV.